Welcome to the Empowered Healer podcast with Songbird Grandmother. And today, this is episode 5. 5 is the number of change, and it is a powerful number for those of you who are healers. In today's podcast, we're going to talk about what is a healer. I think there's a lot of misconceptions, and when you hear the word healer, it invokes different imagery. For some of you, when I say healer, you may think of doctors or traditional medicine that you're used to. I guess we could call it Western medicine versus holistic medicine. For many of you, when you hear the word healer, you hear, oh, maybe a holistic doctor, maybe a naturopath, maybe a energy healer, maybe a shaman, maybe a medicine person. It invokes a different image depending on how you view healing. So the first thing we have to think about is, what is healing? To heal, to make something whole, or in our case, make someone whole. We could also say returning to wholeness. We can say returning to wellness. Healing invokes a lot of different images depending on what you believe a healer is. Maybe your own personal experiences with healing. Healing is the ability to light a candle into or onto a candle, to light the way for someone when they are going through illness or dis-ease, and to help them restore themselves back to wholeness. And this can be done through medicine, herbs, energy. But the most powerful healing is the spiritual healing, because you can always eat, you can always prescribe. But when you have a spiritual whole, you have an emptiness within you that no medicine, no food, no substance can resolve. And this is why shamanism is the oldest, quote unquote, religion in the world. It is the most ancient, most primitive, most foundational healing there is, because when you step into the art of shamanism, everything has a spiritual component. Now, unless you have a missing arm or you're in a terrible accident and you need surgery, shamanism can cure almost any and all ailments. Because at the foundation of every physical problem, there is a spiritual symptom and root. And once you understand the root and symptoms of the spiritual problem, you can not only diagnose, but cure it through a spiritual solution. Now, there are the uses of herbs, which are also spirits. There is the usage of fire, earth, air, and water. There's the usage of goddesses, gods, spirits, ancestors, nature spirits, haunted spirits, haunted ghosts. There's a lot of different types of spirits. And that's part of the diagnosis is what is going on in the symptoms that would create this disease or illness within this person that then has not only a spiritual resolution, but a physical, mental, psychological, and overall reason. So there's a lot of different things that spirit will manifest as. And when we get to the root of it, it is applicable to all elements of life. And so sometimes you may have a physical problem with a spiritual root. You may have a mental problem with a spiritual root. You may have a psychological problem with a spiritual root. You may have a mental, emotional, physical problem with a spiritual root. And when you get to the root, you will not only understand, identify, but cure whatever is going on. Because in shamanism, it is a holistic approach. And that is what healing is. It's looking at the whole person, the soul of a person, and helping them get to the root of their suffering. So in the East, they call that karma. They call that destiny. And there's usually two parts to your destiny. There is the part of you before marriage, and then there's the part of you after marriage. So when somebody marries or partners up, they change their fate. And sometimes it's for better, and sometimes it's for worse. And some people won't marry, and their fate will just take its course. They don't have the before and after. But when you choose to be in a partnership, you will have a destiny before your partnership, and then you'll have a destiny after your partnership. And depending on your karma, your destiny will take shape. Now, you can always work on your karma. There's different chants, ceremonies, rituals, prayers to help you to not only clear bad karma, but to invite good karma. And through actions, deeds, and behaviors, you can, make sure you don't create more bad karma and create good karma, and ultimately, hopefully, create no karma to ascend off of this cycle of suffering. And so part of what shamanism does, and when you are a shamanic healer, is you work in the realms of the spirit world with the different types of spirits, and you help people to clear, to remove, to resolve, to restore, and to heal ancestral wounds, karmic wounds, psychic wounds, spiritual, mental, physical wounds, to restore the soul of people who are suffering. And it's done through spiritual power that is cultivated through having a natural gift, having a natural connection, training with a teacher, ceremony, meditation, prayer, and dedication, loyalty, and a deep devotion to service. And ultimately, whatever type of healer you identify as an empowered healer, that last part of deep service is most important. Because when you have a calling to be a healer, it is a deep service to humanity. It is the deep love to help others. Because if you don't have a healer's heart, you can't be a healer. Because in the very invitation of the word, healer means you heal. You have to work for others. And it can manifest in so many different ways. I think when people think of healers, they think of a specific type of healer, and then it limits their understanding of what we're truly talking about. There are empath healers. There are, psychic healers. There are spiritual healers. There are physical healers. There are people who never ever call themselves a healer, but when you're in their presence, you feel and are healed. And it's more of a vibration that a person carries that they then expand, cultivate, and give to others, like the sun. And it can manifest itself in so many different ways, jobs, occupations. You can be at a grocery store and be a healer. You can work at a grocery store. You can work at a gas station. You can work at any box chain store. You can be positioned in any place at any time because your vibration is needed in that time and space to heal. And you'll know it by certain things like when you go to a grocery store or you go to some place and then it's empty and then all of a sudden the whole parking lot is filled and you're like, oh my gosh, what happened? And it's the moment you arrive and the moment you leave, everybody's leaving with you. That's how you know. That's one of the main signs. Another sign is, electronics. Having issues with electronics, burning out, not working, going cuckoo when you're in the room. There's something about your vibration that will throw off electronics. Now, this can be good or bad, depending. Because when you have spiritual power and you have a gift, but you have yet to understand it, control it, and cultivate it for the best, you can be pretty, reckless. And that's why they always say, like, baby shamans could kill somebody because they haven't yet worked with the principles of the underworld or what we call shadow work. They haven't yet learned techniques, meditation, rituals, ceremonies to help them cultivate and control those powers. And perhaps they have a lot of anger, ignorance, grief, unresolved trauma, a whole slew of things that when you're working with cultivating and refining your gift, you control the mind, you control the emotions, you control the heart. And when you do those things, more and more spiritual power will be given and less recklessness and suffering will be caused for self and others. So when we talk about healing, We are talking about a vibration. We are talking about an energy. We are talking about self-discipline and cultivation. We're talking about what you bring to the world that helps it in divine love and service. I've met a lot of people on this path, and I've met a lot of healers. I live in Sedona, so I've met a lot of people. And I can tell you that it doesn't matter what your gift is. It doesn't matter how truly psychic you are. It doesn't matter how much potential you have. It only matters what your heart says, is, and does. It only matters what your heart is, says, and does. Because those three elements cannot be changed. I cannot change your heart. People can touch your heart, but nobody can change your heart. You can refine your heart, you can open your heart, you can expand your heart, you can close your heart, but you cannot change your heart. You can change your mind. That's very easy. But the heart is that steady beat. It never wavers. It's the drum beat. Because the second that heart stops, you're dead. But the heart is not the thing you think it is. It's not this vessel. It's not actually emotional. It's the feeling. See, there's a big difference between emotion and feeling. Emotions are coming from outside of you, and we would classify emotions as a spirit because they're coming from the outside in, and they're temporary, they're volatile, and they can ruin or they can elate your life. Like joy is an emotion and rage is an emotion, right? And they're on two opposite sides of the spectrum, but they can manifest within the same spectrum. So when you have an emotion, it's not your heart. It's an outside influence coming to the inside world. And then it leaves. It doesn't stay. It's not permanent. Whereas feelings are something you cultivate over time that can be negative and positive, and they can influence your decisions, your choices, and your way of thinking in both negative and positive ways. Happiness is a feeling. Anger is a feeling. They're both something that you will cultivate over time through behaviors, actions, and attitude. So when you have a feeling of peace, that's something you have cultivated through a lot of meditation, prayer, dedication, commitment to something or someone. Peace is something that no one can give you. It's something you earn through constant devotion and discipline to peace. You have to be in a more peaceful state than not to cultivate peace. And it's the same thing like anger. You can cultivate anger through time, and it's something that was like perpetuating within your being, and it's long lasting, and it can influence everything in your life. It can attract or detract things into your life. It can harm your life. It can be poison. It can prohibit you from enjoying your life. And so when we talk about and think about these subjects of what is a healer is someone who has gone through the depths of the underworld and beyond and has come back to give love, peace, compassion, and understanding. And they have done their own inner work to connect the outer forces, which is the spirit world, to be the medium between heaven and earth. And it can be on a very professional level, and it can be on a very foundational amateur level. It can go from a 0 to 1,000 back to 1. It can go from 0 to 1,000 and beyond. It really just depends on how much time, money, and energy someone is willing to put into their spirituality, because there is no limit to spiritual power. There's no limit to spiritual healing. There's no limit to healing. And that is the path of the empowered healer. The empowered healer is someone who is here to devote their entire life and existence to healing others, to healing self, to healing their families, their communities, and then the world. The empowered healer is here to leave a lasting legacy of light that will travel beyond all times, all spaces, all dimensions, into the here and now and into the afterlife. The empowered healer is someone who is here to bring the light, having gone through the darkness, back to the light. Now, willing, ready, and able to go beyond what they thought they were to who they really, truly are, with the power of the spiritual dimensions that exist in this reality and beyond. So when we say empowered healer, it is beyond time and space. It is beyond human understanding. And it reaches into the deepest crevices of who we are. So when you think of what a healer is now, stop and really feel into the power of healing, the power to go from diseased to whole and complete, the power to go from anger to peace, from joy to happiness, and into the deepest parts of self-love, community, and rising above the pettiness, the ignorance, the jealousy, the heartbreak of what it is to be on this planet in the circle of life that is filled with obstacles, suffering, grief, and many, 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 many emotions that are often ignored, suppressed, rejected, and not fully felt and released. And when you are a healer and you are going to become an empowered healer, it is not something taken lightly. It is not something frivolous. It is not something superficial. It is not something that anyone should flippantly call themselves. It is the deepest connection to the cosmos, to the earth, to humanity, to God, to the Great Spirit, to the ancestors, to the spirit world, to the past, to the future. It is a deep yearning for humanity to return to wholeness. It is not an easy path. It is a path of constant transformation.